You're just a kid I'm feeding. You never contributed anything. That's what Madison screamed at me in court. Her voice was full of venom, lips curled like she'd won something. The judge's gavel hovered midair, seconds away from finalizing everything. And right before it all came crashing down, I looked him straight in the eye and said, "Before that, Your Honor, there's one thing I must explain." The whole courtroom gasped. The judge froze. And my story began. Let me take you back to the moment the thread of lies began to unravel. It was a Thursday night, and I remember it because it was my turn to cook, and I burned the lasagna. Madison came home late, again, dressed like she stepped off the set of a music video. Tight black dress, heels she hadn't worn in years, makeup like she was trying to impress the devil himself. I asked her, "Where have you been?" She kissed me on the cheek like I was her dad or a damn priest and muttered something about girls' night out and how I shouldn't worry so much. But I did worry, because she hadn't called. She hadn't texted. And most of all, she smelled like sandalwood cologne and leather, not perfume. I sat on the edge of our bed that night, staring at her phone charging on the nightstand. That screen was a glowing window to hell, and I swear to God I almost didn't look. But curiosity doesn't knock. It kicks the damn door open. Password was her birthday. Figures. She never thought I paid attention. The messages were all there. A guy named JD. Not saved as James or John, just JD, like some mysterious brooding character in a cheap romance novel. Last night was insane. I can still taste you. Next time, let's not leave scratches. I had to cover them up. My fingers went numb. I remember dropping the phone like it was made of fire. My mouth was dry, my chest tight. And the woman I had been building a life with for 6 years was in the shower humming a Dua Lipa song like she didn't just rip my heart out and grind it into hotel sheets with some other man. I didn't yell. I didn't storm in and confront her. I sat there, breathing like I was learning how to do it for the first time. Because that was the moment everything I thought I knew died. The next day, I played dumb. She told me she loved me before she left for work. I smiled, kissed her forehead, packed her lunch. And the moment she left, I started digging. That lunch. I replaced it with a hidden GPS tracker under her seat, courtesy of my buddy Kyle who worked security for a tech firm. The car didn't go to her office. It went to a loft downtown, one I didn't pay rent on. She stayed there for 4 hours. No meetings. No emails. No calls. Just JD. I drove there the next day, parked down the block, waited. At 3:17 p.m., she walked out with him. Big guy, tan, tattoos that said, "I've done time," and a smirk like he knew he was violating a sacred vow. They kissed. Not just a kiss, that kiss. The kind she used to give me when she couldn't wait to pull me into bed. And I sat in my car gripping the steering wheel until my knuckles bled, listening to the soft rumble of the engine and the roaring silence of betrayal. She came home that night and acted like nothing happened. Cooked dinner. Laughed at my jokes. Asked me to rub her feet. And all I could think was, "You're AF *ing actress. And I'm done being your stage. **. That was the day I started building my case. And what she didn't know was, when she sneered in court and called me useless, she was stepping into a trap I had been constructing for months. Brick by deceitful brick. Because I wasn't useless. I was patient. And patience is the sharpest blade of all. I waited 3 more weeks before I said a word. Every night, Madison came home a little later, kissed me a little less, and made up bigger lies. We're launching a campaign. Jenna's mom is sick. There was an accident on I-95. I nodded through every excuse like a dumb, obedient husband. But during the day, I was building. Screenshots, bank statements, credit card charges. She wasn't just cheating. She was funding her little love story with our joint account. Fancy dinners, hotels, Uber rides across town while I sat at home reheating leftovers. It wasn't just betrayal. It was robbery. I didn't sleep much. At night, I'd lie in bed beside her, listening to her breathing, wondering how someone could be so warm one moment and so cold the next. Her skin didn't feel like my wife's anymore. It felt borrowed, like she was wearing someone else's personality just to blend in. One morning, I placed a hidden camera in the kitchen. Just one. Just to confirm what I already knew. That same evening, while I was at the gym, she brought him in. They didn't even wait to get upstairs. She shoved him against the counter and kissed him like he was oxygen. They laughed, they drank from my whiskey, and then they went upstairs. That night, I watched the footage with shaking hands, heart pounding, chest burning. He was wearing my shirt, the one she used to sleep in when she missed me. She told him this house felt like a museum full of regrets. I heard her whisper, "I don't even look at him the same anymore." And then they disappeared off camera. I didn't cry. I didn't throw things. I didn't scream. I unplugged the camera. I saved the video. And I waited for Friday. She came downstairs wearing that red dress I bought her for our anniversary 2 years ago. "I'm heading out with the girls," she said, grabbing her purse. I smiled. "Tell JD." I said hi. Her whole body stiffened. For the first time in months, she looked at me like I wasn't invisible. "What did you say?" I walked over, calm, collected, placed a flash drive on the table. "You left your little movie on my counter." Her hands trembled. Her mouth opened, but no sound came out. I'd seen that look before, back when we got robbed at a gas station during a road trip. That's the face you make when you know you're caught, and there's no way out. Then came the lies. "It's not what you think. He means nothing." I was drunk. "It only happened once. It didn't mean anything. It's your fault. You were never present. You made me feel alone. I needed to feel alive." He listens to me. He appreciates me. She tossed every rotten excuse she could come up with, like one of them might land and kill the truth. I didn't flinch. I asked her one question. "Are you in love with him?" She didn't answer. That was the only answer I needed. She moved out the next week, tail tucked, reputation collapsing behind her. Told her friends I was abusive. Told her mom I monitored her every move. Told her sister that I had anger issues. Lies. All of them. But she knew the truth couldn't keep up with the show she was performing. And then came the divorce trial. She strutted into court like a peacock. Hair perfect, nails fresh, sunglasses like she was stepping onto a movie set. Sat across from me with a smug little grin. Her lawyer opened with, "My client has been the sole provider and emotional backbone of this marriage." I almost laughed. She looked the judge dead in the eyes and spat. "He's just a kid I'm feeding. He never contributed anything." The courtroom buzzed. I clenched my jaw, waited for the judge to begin the ruling. "Before that, Your Honor," I said calmly, standing up, "there's one thing I must explain." Her face went pale. I reached into my briefcase and pulled out the USB. The courtroom watched the screen. JD kissing her neck in my kitchen. Her laughing as she poured whiskey. Her words, crystal clear. "I don't even look at him the same anymore." You could have heard a pin drop. The judge turned to her, stunned. "Mrs. Coleman, would you like to respond?" She didn't. She couldn't. Her lips trembled, and for the first time since this hell began, I felt peace. She sat there like a statue, frozen. That perfect mouth of hers, the one that used to spit sugar and poison in the same breath, couldn't form a single word. Her lawyer leaned in, whispering frantically, but she just blinked. The judge took off his glasses, stared down at her like he was trying to remember if he'd ever seen a more pathetic excuse of a performance. I sat down slowly, didn't smile, didn't gloat, just looked straight ahead as if I hadn't just dropped a grenade on her entire version of reality. The judge took a deep breath. "Given the new evidence provided by Mr. Coleman," he said slowly, his voice firm, "I will be revisiting the division of assets, spousal support, and custody arrangements." Her lawyer jumped up. "Your Honor, we were unaware of this material." "Sit down," the judge snapped. "You'll have time to respond in writing. For now, court is adjourned until I review this footage thoroughly." Bang. Gavel. Done. As people stood and began to file out, I felt her eyes burning into me. I turned, finally, and met her gaze. And in that moment, I saw it. The collapse. That smug, twisted little world she'd built for herself crumbled in real time. The affairs. The lies. The performance. Gone. She mouthed something. I think it was, "How dare you?" I just blinked at her and walked out. Outside the courtroom, the air felt lighter. Kyle was waiting for me, leaning on my car. "Dude," he said, grinning. That was legendary. I didn't say anything, just leaned against the door and looked up at the sky. For the first time in months, I wasn't pretending. I wasn't smiling through pain. I wasn't loving someone who was stabbing me in the back. I was free, but the freedom didn't feel how I expected. It wasn't joyful. It wasn't satisfying. It was hollow, like getting rescued from drowning only to realize you were the one who jumped in the first place. The days that followed were a blur of paperwork, calls, and silence. My house was empty. She didn't even take her things. Just left them like they meant nothing. Clothes still in the closet. Makeup in the bathroom. A wine glass still on the nightstand, half full. That was Madison, never finishing anything unless it benefited her. I kept waiting for her to come by, to pick up her crap, to scream, cry, beg, threaten. But nothing. Instead, she sent her sister to grab the essentials. Her sister, who once cried at our wedding, couldn't even look me in the eye. She just said, "I'm sorry, Liam," and packed the bare minimum. 3 days later, I got a text from her. "I never wanted it to end like this. I was hurting. You changed. I didn't mean to hurt you." I stared at the screen, thumbs hovering over the keyboard. I didn't reply, because here's the thing, she did mean to hurt me. Every lie was a choice. Every night with him was a decision. Every insult, every betrayal, every manipulation, calculated, intentional. I knew she expected me to blow up, to beg, to threaten, but I wasn't giving her that. I already took everything that mattered. Her mask. She could keep JD. Let him taste the poison she hides behind that perfect smile. Let him hear the same lies, over and over, until he starts to question his own memory. Me? I was done playing husband to a villain in a rom-com she directed in her head. A week later, I saw her again. I was grabbing coffee downtown, same spot I used to wait for her on Friday afternoons when we'd go home together. I guess part of me hoped I wouldn't run into her, but the universe has a twisted sense of humor. She walked in wearing sunglasses too big for her face, and that smug air like the world still owed her something. And right behind her was JD, tattoos, tight shirt, smug as ever. He kissed her neck as they ordered like they were the only two people who mattered. I could have left, could have turned around and walked out, but I didn't. I stood there, straight-backed, coffee in hand, and waited until she noticed me. She did. Took her 3 seconds. Her smile froze. Eyes flicked up, then down, and then she looked at him, like she needed to act. She laughed a little too loud, touched his arm a little too obviously, then whispered something in his ear. He turned around like a pit bull ready to pick a fight. I gave him a single nod. Not out of respect, out of warning. She walked past me, pretending not to care. But as she did, she stopped for just a second and said, "Hope you're enjoying the show." Because I am. I took a slow sip of my coffee and said without looking at her, "Enjoy it while it lasts. That spotlight burns, Maddie." She didn't respond, just kept walking. He didn't even realize the show had already started falling apart. See, what she didn't know was that JD had a girlfriend. A real one. One he never broke up with. A girl named Kayla, who messaged me the night of the court hearing. She sent me screenshots, voice notes, even a video. Turns out Madison was the side dish. And she had no idea. So I forwarded the package. Anonymous account. No message. Just a little taste of what betrayal feels like. Revenge doesn't have to be loud. Sometimes silence is sharper. The next 2 weeks were quiet. She stopped posting selfies with him. Her stories turned from cocktails and sunsets to vague quotes about growth and healing. She even posted a throwback of our wedding with the caption, "Not everything is what it seems." No, Madison. It never was. I got a call from her mother the next day. "Liam, can we talk?" She sounded exhausted. "Beaten." I said, "There's nothing left to talk about." Then came the late-night text. "I miss what we had. You were the only person who ever really knew me." And maybe I did. But that version of her died the night I saw her wrapped around another man in my kitchen. So I did something I never thought I would. I blocked her. Phone, email, socials, all of it. Not to hurt her, but to finally stop hurting myself. Because no matter how many times I replayed the betrayal, the lies, the gaslighting, I kept coming back to one truth. She never loved me the way I loved her. And now? Now I don't need her love to survive. Because I'm building something new. Alone, but whole. 2 months passed. I didn't hear from her again. Not directly, anyway. But people talk. Her name kept showing up like a bad echo in rooms I didn't expect. At the gym, a buddy casually mentioned he saw her alone at a bar, staring into her drink like it owed her answers. A friend of a friend told me she showed up at a party in that same red dress. Only this time the zipper was broken, and her mascara was running down her face before midnight. JD was long gone. Apparently, the day after I sent Kayla that little gift package, he vanished. Blocked Madison on everything. Moved out of the loft they shared. Yeah, turns out she was paying his rent. The guy she cheated on me with was living on my money and lying to her too. Poetic. I almost felt bad for her. Almost. But then I remembered how she'd kiss me goodbye with his scent still on her skin. I spent my nights rebuilding. Not just my place, myself. I picked up woodworking again, turned the spare room into a workshop. Cal helped me install a punching bag in the garage. There were still moments, flashes of her laugh, her perfume, the sound of her heels on the stairs that made my chest tighten. But they came and went like smoke. No longer thick enough to choke me. And then came the message. Not from her. From her lawyer. She was challenging the divorce settlement. Not because she needed money. Not because she cared. But because losing wasn't something Madison could accept. She wanted to drag me back into court just to see if she could win something. Anything. It was like inviting a snake back into your home just to see if it could still hiss. I called my lawyer. We met. We prepared. But this time, I didn't feel scared. I felt focused. The courtroom was colder than last time. She wore all black like she was mourning. Maybe she was. Maybe she finally realized she wasn't in control anymore. She didn't look at me. Didn't speak. The judge reviewed the documents quietly. Her lawyer tried to spin the same tired story about financial imbalance, about emotional trauma, about narcissistic control. It was laughable. My lawyer stayed calm, precise, professional. And then came my turn. I stood up, handed the judge a printed timeline, color-coded with receipts, video transcripts, dates, and screenshots. It told a story so airtight you could have put it in a museum. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't accuse. I simply laid out the facts like a surgeon. When I finished, I sat down. The courtroom was dead silent. The judge looked at her, then at me. This case is closed, he said firmly. All challenges are dismissed. The original ruling stands. I exhaled slowly. Not in relief, just release. She stood up, brushed off her coat, and finally looked at me. But her eyes weren't full of anger anymore. They were hollow, like she didn't recognize the man sitting across from her. And maybe she didn't. Because the man she married died the day she gave herself to someone else. Outside, it was raining. She stood under the overhang, waiting for her Uber. I walked past her without a word. She called out, "Liam." I paused but didn't turn. "I thought I'd be happy without you," she said quietly. "But I don't even know who I am anymore." I didn't say anything. She wasn't looking for forgiveness. She was looking for permission to fall apart. But that wasn't mine to give. I walked to my car, turned on the engine, drove home. Not to an empty house, to a quiet one. And for the first time, it felt like peace. A few days later, I found a letter in my mailbox. Not an email, not a text, an actual letter, written in her handwriting. I stared at the envelope for a long time before opening it. I didn't know what I expected. An apology? A confession? A last desperate attempt to claw back into my life. It started with, "Liam, I don't know where to begin," and ended with, "I hope you find someone who sees you the way I never could." The middle was a tornado of excuses, half-admissions, and twisted memories. She talked about how lost she'd felt, how she never meant to hurt me, how she had been spiraling long before JD ever showed up. She said she missed the way I looked at her, like she was worth something. That being with me made her feel safe, and that she hadn't felt safe since I left. But I hadn't left. She'd pushed me, shoved me out with lie after lie until I couldn't recognize myself anymore. There was one line that stuck with me, though. "I keep waiting for the day you'll hate me. But you don't. And that scares me more than anything." She was right. I didn't hate her. I pitied her. Because hate gives someone space in your heart. She didn't have that anymore. Still, I kept the letter. Not out of sentiment, but as a reminder of how deep I sank trying to save someone who was already walking away. That weekend, Kyle dragged me to a small cookout his sister was hosting. Said I needed to get out of the cave. I almost didn't go, but something in me, maybe curiosity, maybe the quiet boredom of healing, said yes. There, in the middle of the backyard, laughing over a game of cornhole, was someone new. Her name was Rachel. She didn't ask me about my divorce. She didn't press when I said I'd had a rough few months. She just talked, listened, smiled with her whole face. There was no performance, no agenda, just warmth. And for the first time in what felt like a lifetime, I didn't feel like I had to be someone else. We exchanged numbers. I didn't expect anything. But the next morning, she texted, "Hope your coffee's strong and your heart stronger." I smiled. Madison used to text me things like, "Pick up oat milk," or "Don't forget the rent." Rachel sent words that didn't feel like reminders. They felt like care. Over the next few weeks, we kept talking. Just talking. No pressure. No speed. She wasn't a replacement. She was a new chapter. And I wasn't looking to rewrite history. I was writing something new from scratch. One night, I told her everything. Not to unload, but to be honest. I told her about the kitchen camera, about the court, about the way betrayal feels like drowning with your eyes wide open. She didn't flinch. She didn't judge. She just said, "You survived. That's enough." That night, I slept without waking up once. It didn't fix everything. The scars were still there. But scars don't hurt. They remind. And I needed that reminder. Because there's a strange kind of power in surviving the worst version of love. You learn what not to tolerate. You learn that peace is worth more than passion if passion comes poisoned. I haven't seen Madison in months. But the last I heard, she moved back in with her mom. No job. No JD. Just silence. Funny how loud silence can be when you're used to performing for applause. Me? I don't need an audience anymore. A month later, I got a message from an unknown number. No name. Just a single sentence. "I need to see you. Please." I stared at it for a full minute. My chest didn't tighten. My hands didn't shake. I wasn't angry or curious or sad. I was calm. I replied, "No." That was it. One word. No punctuation. No emotion. She tried again 2 days later. Called twice. I didn't answer. Left a voicemail. Her voice cracked halfway through it. Said she was in a bad place. Said she needed closure. Said she still dreamed about me. That the silence was killing her. That she wanted to talk just one last time. But I had nothing left to say. Closure isn't something someone gives you. It's what you give yourself when the other person runs out of lies. I deleted the message. Didn't even listen to the rest of it. Later that week, Rachel came over. She brought pizza, wore one of those oversized hoodies that made her look like comfort personified. We didn't talk about Madison. We didn't need to. The chapter had closed so loudly, it didn't deserve an epilogue. But while Rachel was grabbing drinks from the kitchen, I looked at her and thought, this is how it's supposed to feel. Not like a high, not like a fix, but like finally stepping into sunlight after years of cold. We sat on the couch, legs tangled, some old action movie playing in the background. She turned to me and asked, "Do you regret it?" I didn't answer right away. I thought about the years I gave to someone who never really saw me. The nights I stayed up wondering what I did wrong. The mornings I made breakfast for a woman who was probably texting another man under the table. The therapy sessions. The court. The betrayal. Then I looked at Rachel. "I don't regret surviving it," I said. She nodded. Said nothing else. That's what I liked about her. She never tried to fix the broken parts of me. She just let me breathe. The next morning, I got served. Madison filed for a restraining order. I was stunned, confused, but not panicked. I called my lawyer. He was already ahead of it. "It won't stick," he said. "This is desperation, not danger." Apparently, she told the court I had harassed her, sent her threatening emails, followed her, made her feel unsafe. All lies. I hadn't contacted her once since that message. Hadn't been near her, hadn't even spoken her name. This wasn't about protection, it was about punishment. She couldn't stand the fact that I'd moved on, that she no longer lived rent-free in my head. The judge saw right through it, dismissed it in minutes, called it an abuse of the legal system. Madison didn't even show up. That was the last straw. I changed my number, closed the door, blocked every last path she could use to crawl back in. Not out of fear, out of peace. Because the truth is, Madison wasn't just a mistake. She was a lesson. A brutal, messy, unforgettable one. And I needed it. Because now I know what I'll never settle for again. 3 months passed. No more letters. No more phone calls. No sudden messages in the middle of the night. Just silence. The kind that finally felt like peace, not punishment. The kind that lets you breathe without flinching every time your phone buzzes. Rachel and I kept things slow, honest, real. She never asked me to forget the past. She just gave me a reason not to live in it. One evening, we were sitting on my porch watching the rain. She had her feet on my lap, hoodie sleeves pulled over her hands like she always did when she got cold. The sky was gray, the air smelled like pine and wet pavement. "I think I'm ready to say it out loud," I told her quietly. She looked at me, waiting. I don't love her anymore. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't some emotional breakthrough. It just settled into the air like truth. She didn't speak, just squeezed my hand and leaned her head on my shoulder. That's the thing about real love. It doesn't need fireworks to feel alive. Sometimes it's soft, steady, safe. I'd been chasing storms for so long I forgot how good sunlight felt. A few days later, I found an old shoebox in the back of the closet. Madison's photos. Our wedding album. The honeymoon folder she once swore she'd never delete. I sat there for a minute, staring at them. That smile. That sparkle in her eyes. It was all a performance. She knew how to play perfect, like it was second nature. But now I could see it. The cracks. The way her hand never really held mine tight. The way her eyes always wandered to the lens instead of me. I burned the photos that night. Not out of anger. Out of mercy for myself. It was time to stop carrying ghosts. And in that moment, I realized something. She never broke me. She just showed me what I was made of. You survive betrayal not by forgetting it, but by becoming someone it can never touch again. Now when people ask, I tell them the truth. Yeah, I went through hell. Yeah, I gave my heart to someone who buried it. Yeah, I lost pieces of myself in the fire. But I came back stronger. Sharper. Clearer. I learned that love without respect is just a pretty prison. That forgiveness is more about freeing yourself than excusing them. And that walking away isn't weakness, it's wisdom. My advice: don't wait for the apology that will never come. Don't waste time trying to fix someone who thrives on breaking you. And don't ever confuse drama for passion. Real love isn't loud. It's consistent. It shows up. And it stays. Madison taught me that, by being everything love is not. And for that, I thank her. From a distance. Forever.